everyone. Welcome to today's Feathr webinar. I'm glad to have you on here. Go ahead and start dropping in the chat where you're joining from, just to kind of get the chat started. I'm really happy to have all of you on here. I see we've got more people joining. But yeah, today we're going to be talking all about the importance of setting up your audience for to be primed for Giving Tuesday and for end of year campaigns. So kind of setting yourself up for success now so that you're not rushing to do everything at the end of the year. And that might be inevitable, but the more you can do now to kind of prime your audience for those asks, get in front of new people, grow your audience now, you'll have more people to speak to at the end of the year and more people who will be familiar with your organization. So lots of ways you can do this, and we'll be getting into some detailed campaign examples, some best practices today. But yeah, just going to give everyone a couple more minutes to get in here. All right, we've got people from Community Culinary School. Nice. Cool. Georgia. I'm actually going there this weekend to celebrate my birthday. My sister lives in Atlanta, so I'm going to spend that with her and do some Atlanta stuff. Thanks. Let me just type in here so people who have just joined can weigh in. But yeah, I see people are continuing to join, so I want to give just a couple more minutes before diving into the content. For anyone who's just trickled in, go ahead and tell us where you're joining from. And really excited to have you on here today. I'm hoping this will be a helpful session for just kind of giving you some ideas of how to get started with Giving Tuesday, end of year campaigns, how to start getting in front of new people, how to prime your existing audience for those bigger asks that you're going to be making at the end of the year. Cool. We've got Fort Worth, Texas. One of my favorite clients to work with is actually a YMCA of Metro Fort Worth. So they are an amazing Feathr user. Done a webinar with that user as well, and so they're great. They do a lot of digital ad campaigns to get in front of program participants and expand their audience that way. Runners for their turkey trot. So yeah, love the YMCA of Metro Fort Worth. Orlando, Florida, Cocoa, Florida, nice. Yeah, I'm Florida based as well. I'm in Gainesville. Cool, got lots of, oh, Jacksonville, Alabama. Okay, I was gonna say 3 Floridas in a row, but there's a Jacksonville, Alabama as well. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. We've got a good number of people on here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with the content. So thanks again to everyone for joining. My name's Isa Hasty. I'm the Senior Content Marketing Manager here at Feathr. I'll be sending out the slide deck after the webinar, so you'll be receiving that tomorrow, as well as the recording. So I included my email here just in case you want to reach out. If you have any questions about the webinar content, or if you have any ideas for topics you'd like for me to cover, definitely send them my way. I try to come up with topics that I think will be most helpful and kind of topical and timely, but I love to hear directly from you all in terms of like what's actually top of mind, what is a topic that, you actually have questions about that could be helpful to kind of hear some more information about. We have tons of nonprofits that we work with at Feathr who are super successful in doing a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today. I'm going to be showing some real campaign examples from Feathr users, digital ad campaigns, some email mapping campaigns. And so we have a lot to pull from in terms of what's worked. So yeah, any kind of questions or topics that you're interested in me covering, I more than likely will have some great real life examples to pull from to kind of put that in perspective. So. And just to kind of highlight a few of the many organizations that we help. So lots of these, we serve nonprofits sort of across the spectrum. So arts and culture orgs, human services, animal services, museums, environmental orgs. So you can kind of see, hopefully one of these logos resonates with you. But yeah, we really kind of run the gamut in terms of serving nonprofits, helping you just get in front of the right people, amplify your cause, and drive donations, drive event attendance, all of those things. And then real quick, I'm going to launch a little poll here. So every Wednesday morning, we send out a newsletter called the Good Marketing Brief. And it's full of just tips and tactics, industry news, what's going on in the nonprofit world. I'm going to launch this poll. If you would like me to just go ahead and sign you up for it, put a yes in this poll and I'll get you signed up. You don't have to click anything or do anything, and you'll start receiving it next Wednesday. But yeah, it's actually a really popular newsletter. It's gotten a lot of traction over the last year. Because I think it's just a really helpful sort of weekly digest on what's going on in the nonprofit world. And, we promote webinars like this one and our own content as well as content from other nonprofit organizations and tech platforms. So it's a good kind of catch-all each week. So, okay, cool. We've got lots of people already subscribed. Yeah, cool. Okay, so everyone who said yes, I'll go ahead and get you subscribed. Um, and yeah, hopefully you enjoy the newsletter. Alrighty, so today, again, we will be sending out the deck and the recording tomorrow, so you can expect those. But what we'll be covering today is sort of in general why growth and reconnection matter and why they matter, especially coming up on end of year, Giving Tuesday, priming yourself for success. And then we'll be talking about some specific audience expansion strategies as well as re-engagement tactics. So expanding your audience can look like getting in front of completely new people who have never heard about your organization, but it can also look like getting back on the radar of lapsed donors or people who maybe have been to your website but haven't engaged with you in a long time. So there are ways to get in front of net new people as well as to get back in front of people who have shown interest but haven't sort of taken action recently. So both of those things are really important for leading into the end of the year. And then talking a little bit about measuring your success. So there's obviously a difference between, the types of campaigns that you're running to just get people to go to your website for the first time versus those bigger ask ROI sort of focused campaigns where you're really asking people to make that donation, click that button. And so I just want to set some expectations around the kind of metrics you should be looking at for the different campaigns, what expectations you should have in terms of ROI. Just to kind of have, I think, a realistic understanding of what each campaign type offers and how they all feed into each other for that end result that you're looking for. And then I will be going through a bunch of real audience expansion campaigns that have been run in Feathr, just to kind of show you how these audience expansion and re-engagement campaigns work in real life, show you some creatives that went along with it, and some numbers and results. So why do growth and reconnection matter? Let's start off with a quick sort of little poll here. You can just answer in the chat for this one, but I'm just curious what you all are doing to actually get in front of new people and grow your audience. So just go ahead and drop letters in based on what you see here, but kind of want to get a read of the room. Are you not really doing a whole lot to expand your audience? Focus on other things? Are you using events, social media, digital advertising campaigns, which is obviously what we're going to be talking about a lot today? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of B, C, and D. That makes sense. I think those are pretty standard. Glad to see D. Um, okay, A. Okay, yep. A is fine, but I'm glad you're on here because we want to get you into some of these other activations. B and C. Okay, yeah, I feel like B and C are the big ones. So yeah, there's really a lot that you can do with digital advertising just to kind of show up in new places where you know that people are scrolling and browsing. So we'll get into that now, but just before we kind of show okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for clarifying. B, C, and D are definitely the standard ones. So yeah, I just want to give a little bit of perspective on the importance of marketing and digital marketing for sort of the viability of your mission in general, but especially in the context of end of year. So we're thinking about this in the context of building up your audience so that they're primed for those bigger asks at the end of year, since it's more effective to ask for money from people who already know about you, right? But in general, it is really important to prioritize audience expansion and put intentional effort behind it. So at all times, you're competing with millions of other nonprofits, millions of other for-profit organizations for attention, and you need to be staying ahead of the curve, using the right tech, showing up in as many places as possible to have that edge and make sure that you're cutting through the noise, not being invisible. And this isn't just for when end of year comes around, right? It's so that you are showing up on people's devices and staying on people's radars so that you have sort of a sustainable mission long term. So as you can see from a couple of these stats here, the number of new donors is actually falling, right? And then millennials have surpassed boomers as the largest generation in the US. And so I think a lot of nonprofits rely on baby boomers and their giving habits for, remaining sustainable. And the fact is, you're going to have to sort of pivot and think about new ways to get in front of younger supporters, how to appeal to them, and ultimately turn them into your next generation of donors. So we have plenty of other content around this. We're releasing a new ebook soon about getting in front of younger supporters and donors. So that'll be, I think, really helpful. I've done a couple webinars on this topic. So definitely check out our other webinars, our recordings on feathr.com/live. We have tons of webinar recordings on the topic of how to get in front of younger supporters, how to diversify your audience. So lots of content there. I'll probably do another webinar on this in the near future, just because I know it's a topic that there's a lot of appetite around. But anyway, you want to be thinking about getting in front of younger people, creating a sustainable approach to marketing. But I think some nonprofit leaders and boards kind of struggle with the idea of putting more budget toward marketing. Drop a yes in the chat if that does resonate. I know we have some organizations that are all in on marketing, but I do think when it comes to 501(c)(3s, there's a little bit more caution around budget, which totally makes sense. But sometimes marketing sort of takes the brunt of that and doesn't get the budget that it needs, especially for digital, which can feel a little bit elusive and, which is actually ironic because I think digital marketing is one of the easiest ways to prove ROI, to prove results. You really have that hard data there, and that can help you make a strong case for adding more budget compared with less trackable things like direct mail and events and things like that, which are trackable, by the way, and we have ways to do that in Feathr. But digital marketing, digital advertising is just a really easy way to get out there, and then you can directly show the impact of the campaigns. But yeah, I think it can be a hard sell sometimes with more traditional leadership and boards. Looking at the comments here, I hear we don't have a budget for that on the regular. Yes, and now there's a budget for, but much lower than it should be. Yeah, we hear that a lot as well. Leadership is relatively supportive. Glad to hear that, Lori. Yeah. And so, running awareness campaigns through digital advertising channels and syncing that up with the other type of marketing that you're doing, this is a crucial way. This is a crucial part of how your nonprofit, how your board and your leadership and you as the people doing the work need to be thinking about growing your audience. And digital awareness campaigns still let you do all of the things that traditional marketing lets you do. So you're telling the story of your organization, you're explaining the work that you're doing and why, showing the impact, who you're impacting in the community, and showing how the people that you're speaking to fit into the puzzle, right? So when you are showing ads to people as they're browsing the web, you are telling them your story, and if you are, using the right copy and the right creatives and the kind of the right tone, you're telling them how they can get involved, especially when you're using sort of more donor-centric language. I have a couple slides on that later, so we're going to talk about how you can really speak directly to donors in your ads to make them more impactful. But what digital awareness campaigns allow you to do that traditional marketing really doesn't is to reach people in a way that they're guaranteed to notice you. So that means, reaching them with ads where they're already scrolling on Facebook, on their phones, reading news on their iPad, right? Looking up recipes on their laptop, all of their devices, all of the websites they might be browsing, you're showing up with those display ads that populate whenever we're online, right? And so, showing up in those ways where you know that they already are is going to help you cut through and make them more likely to see you. So ultimately, you have to build up a community in order to have a community. And we know it's easier to retain existing donors and to get them to give more money, but you have to have them in order to retain them. And so I think, building up your audience, getting in front of new people, finding ways to do that effectively is a really important topic. And so that's why we're covering that today. And yeah, let's get into some of the challenges that kind of come with this. So obviously audience saturation in digital spaces is huge. That's why using really targeted, highly segmented groups and serving ads to those sort of more niche segments in your audience can be really helpful. There's lots of ways that you can do that in the marketing platform that you're using. So whether you're using Feathr or not, all of this should apply to the marketing platform that you're using. So we're happy to help you do it, but whatever platform you're using to put ads out into the world, it should let you easily segment, easily exclude and include segments from each campaign. Customize messaging, adjust campaign budget as you go, making sure that you're not overspending or underspending. So you want to be able to optimize things while you're running the campaign. Another thing that I hear a lot from nonprofits is that they sometimes rely on agencies to run ad campaigns for them, and then they don't get any information on performance until the end of the campaign. So they might get a report at the end that tells them some stuff, but it's not that useful if the campaign didn't go very well and they couldn't say anything in real time, right? And so using a platform like Feathr can help you kind of see what's happening as you're running the campaign, adjust things, more dynamically and in real time to make sure that you're really making the best use of that budget, which, as we've seen, is, hard to come by. And so you want to make sure that you're making the best use of it. Data limitations as well. So a lot of marketing platforms can help with this, giving you that kind of hard data that you need to see what's working, what's not. Declining donor engagement in general. So this is where, just sort of general awareness of what works for younger generations comes into play. You want to be realistic about the fact that, baby boomers are not going to be giving to your organization in 20, 30 years, and you need to be thinking ahead, thinking about how to get in front of younger people. Again, lots of stuff to talk about there. We're not going to get into it today. But you need to be getting creative and flexible about how you're thinking about that topic. Lack of resources, so this can be budget, this can be bandwidth, people on your team, all of that. And so I know that's a huge challenge for nonprofits. And then inability to track and measure success. So that's kind of tied in with data limitations. But again, having the right platform in place should allow you to track and measure the success of not only your expansion campaigns, but all of the retargeting campaigns you're doing, cart abandonment, email marketing campaigns. You should be able to track all of that down to the dollar. So just a few tips related to some of the challenges we just talked about. Engaging people year round is really important, not just when a big ask or a big event is coming up. So, people want value in more ways than one. So, what are some of the ways that you can engage your audience outside of asking them to give on Giving Tuesday or asking them to give at end of year? Don't just ask them to attend an event or become a member. You want to sort of remind them of the value of your organization, show impact regularly, share success stories, industry news. If you have a newsletter, that's a great way to share things outside of just asking people for things. So just kind of a general reminder here that, people want more from you than just asks. And then creating personalized experiences through automation. So obviously the most effective marketing is personalized. So you want to be setting up campaigns that run in the background for you so that you can stay focused on the creative stuff, the data analysis, all of the other work that you're balancing. So setting up ad retargeting and email automation campaigns can really ensure that you're reaching people who've taken specific actions right after they did it. So automation just helps you create those timely touch points without having to be clicking and keeping up with things, And so having a platform that allows you to easily set up automated email campaigns, automated ad retargeting campaigns, and having people sort of filter into the next campaign that applies to them automatically is what you want to be thinking about. And then setting realistic expectations for each campaign. I'm going to get into a little bit more detail on this later in the presentation and give you some specific metrics that you should be looking at when it comes to these expansion campaigns. So it's not just ROI, it's rarely going to be ROI for those top of funnel campaigns. So I'm going to get into more detail on what you should be looking at there and some benchmarks. And then just as sort of general piece of advice here, letting data inform your messaging. So again, having a marketing platform and marketing tools that help you see that data in real time and see how campaigns are performing is key to be able to do this. But I just love this quote from Christy Jones. This is YMC of Metro Fort Worth. I know we have someone in the audience from Fort Worth here today. But she was running some ad campaigns in Feathr to get in front of people, parents of kids, to promote this after school care program. And so she said, last year we tested childcare versus after school, so those terms in their ads, right? And we found that childcare was pulling in the wrong audience. It was pulling in primarily the under 4 age group, which we already had a large group of, and they were looking for above 4 years old. So we made an intentional decision to not use childcare in any of our messaging and instead focusing on after school or out of school. And then the campaign performed a lot better. They were pulling in the correct audience and converting people that way. So I think this is just a really great, like, tangible example of how you can see that data in real time and adjust the campaign. They were able to actually adjust the language on the ads they were serving while the campaign was running and get results up in real time instead of waiting until the end and being like, oh, okay, clearly this language didn't resonate. We won't use this next year or something like that, you know? So being able to be nimble and adjust things as you go is really effective. So let's get into some of the specific audience expansion strategies that I want to talk about today. So geofencing is the first one. And these are all things that you can do in Feathr, and hopefully you have access to all of these campaign types in whatever platform you're using, but I'm going to be focusing on ones that we offer, and then the campaign examples I'll be showing are also from Feathr. And so again, we can help you do all of these things. And having everything in one place, I think, is a really great way to kind of see what's working, what's not, compare in a more apples to apples way. All of the data is kind of in the same language, which can be really helpful. But yeah, let's get started with talking about geofencing. So we have mobile geofencing and historical geofencing, and these let you serve ads to people on their mobile devices based on where they are in a physical location. So this can be a current physical location. So you might be targeting, people who are on a university campus right now, or people who are in high income neighborhoods in your area right now. You can also do this for people who were at a location previously. So the way to kind of think about which one to choose is what are people doing when they're in that location? So for example, if you want to get in front of people who attended your annual gala, right? If you have a gala and you want to get in front of the people who attended it and ask them to donate at end of year, you don't want to do mobile geofencing during the gala because people are going to be talking, interacting, listening to a speaker, maybe dancing, all of that stuff. And so they're not going to be scrolling on their phones as much. You want to do a historical geofencing campaign to target people who were there, but target them later when they're back home, relaxing, scrolling on their devices, taking a break, and they're more likely to see your ads. So that's kind of the difference between how to think about mobile geofencing versus historical geofencing. But conceptually, it's the same thing. You're kind of drawing a digital perimeter around a physical location on a map. So you can see here, and I'll show some other examples later of actual campaigns that did this. And you're serving those display ads to them on their devices because they were in that location or because they are in that location. So some examples here, you can get really creative with this. So if you're looking for big ticket donors, you might want to target high income areas. You can target like golfing events or yacht club events, things like that. And again, thinking about the difference there, if it's a high income neighborhood, you might just do mobile geofencing because people are at home, they're relaxed, they're having dinner, they're looking at their phones, whatever. If it's a golfing event or something like that, or a gala or a yacht club or anything like that, where people are going to be more sort of like moving around talking, do a historical geofencing campaign, target them later with ads, but you know that they were there, they probably have more money to give, things like that. Um, and then you can also, yeah, you can geofence airports, hotels, convention centers, like any physical location you can think of. Churches are a big one for nonprofits. Religious people are known to give more on average to charitable causes. And so we have a ton of nonprofits that geofence churches. That's another example of where you might want to do historical geofencing because when people are at church, they're less likely to be on their phone. Once they leave, they were there, they've gone home, you can target them then. So yeah, that's a great way to think about it. We have an example of geofencing churches later as well. Affinity targeting is another campaign type. This actually allows you to tap into third-party data to get in front of completely new people. So we're partnered with an organization that provides third-party data based on demographic, in-market, industry data. This is all built in. Doesn't come at any kind of extra cost or anything. And you're not receiving any like email address or identifying information. You're just able to serve ads to these new people based on this third-party data. So if you're a charity looking for some big ticket donors, you can target affluent audiences with a history of donating. If you are a member-based organization, we might have some in here today. You can target professionals in a specific field, specific roles at organizations, things like that. And one of the coolest aspects of affinity campaigns is that you're getting immediate access to new audiences without having to build that larger database of first-party data like website visits, right? So with retargeting campaigns, for example, which drive more ROI and they're higher converting, people have to have come to your website already. And then you're serving them ads after they leave, being like, hey, come back, finish your donation, cart abandonment, thinking of it that way. Um, these types of campaigns, you're getting in front of completely new people who most of them have probably not heard of your cause or been to your website. But you don't have to do anything to get in front of them. You're just kind of selecting who you think is relevant for your cause, who do you think might be primed to be interested or give to your cause. And then you can get in front of them with ads. And then the idea is to serve ads that are compelling enough to get them to click, come to your site, and then you start retargeting them, serving them more personalized messaging, getting to know them a little bit better, with the goal of getting them to donate, give you their email address so that you can add them to email marketing campaigns, newsletters, all of that. So again, this is just sort of the beginning of a larger process, a larger journey with your organization, right? So you want to get in front of these new people, get them to engage with you, come back, visit your site again and again, download some content, make a small donation, attend an event, whatever that looks like for them, volunteer, and then, yeah, eventually become, loyal members of your community. So that is affinity targeting. Lookalike audiences, this is another campaign type. It's similar to affinity targeting. It's pulling in that third-party data to generate new audience segments for you to target. But instead of selecting specific attributes or affiliations yourself, this is going to kind of automatically generate new audience segments based on what your current audience looks like. So, you select what we call a group in your Feathr account, and this is basically a segment of your audience that you choose. So it could be something like past donors or people who visited our about page in the last 60 days, right? You're tracking all of your website pages so you can get pretty specific in terms of creating these segments. And then, Feathr analyzes that data, the online data of the people in this sort of what we call seed group that you've chosen, and then pulls in people who are statistically similar to those people. And that means that they might be a good fit for your organization. So those people are then part of your larger audience that you can serve ads to, and hopefully they enter into your reachable audience of people that you can retarget. Google Ads, I'm sure a lot of you drop in if you're using Google Ads. Put a yes in the chat if this is something you're doing. Um, Google Ad Grant is obviously huge for nonprofits too, and you can run your Google Ad Grant in Feathr. So for anyone who is using Google Ad Grants, that's great. You can do that in Feathr. You can track it, again, compare side by side with all of your other campaigns that you're running. And if you are not using Google Ad Grant, check if you're eligible. It's an amazing deal for nonprofits if you're able to manage it. Some people, outsource that to an agency that manages it for them, but it's definitely a really good opportunity for nonprofits, the Google Ad Grant. But yeah, this is basically, as we all, are familiar with, when you search on Google, you have these ads that show up at the top, right? Sponsored. And so that's what Google Ads, that's where you're trying to show up with Google Ads. You're kind of paying and vying for that spot at the top. And then everything below that is organic. So you also want to be putting effort into SEO and organic marketing efforts, but Google Ads is a great way to show up at the top of the search results while people are searching for relevant keywords. And then a sort of similar type of campaign, so it's keyword based as well. But instead of showing up while people are searching in the Google search engine, you're going to be serving them ads after as they browse other websites based on those key terms that they searched, right? So if you are running Google ad campaigns, you can kind of take the keywords that you're thinking about for those campaigns and probably largely use those for this type of campaign because those are going to be the keywords that you feel are most relevant for someone who's searching for a cause like yours. And so you can actually use a lot of the same information that you're using for your Google Ads campaigns and bring that into keyword search campaigns. But again, you're showing them the display ads. So just like with geofencing, retargeting, all of these other campaigns where you're populating in the little ad slots that are all over websites now, right? So when you see like, hey, you left these shoes in your cart on Amazon, or hey, did you forget to do this? Those are display ads, right? And we all see different ones based on our own search history, our own website browsing. So we're all, as individual people, seeing different ads. And so, yeah, those spots are pretty limitless, and you want to be trying to show up in those spots and get in front of people. And so, keyword search allows you to do that if somebody has searched for relevant terms, because obviously it's ideal if you're showing up at the top of the Google page, but it's hard to get that spot. There's lots of people competing for it. So you want to make sure you're sort of tag teaming and not just trying to show up on the Google search engine, but also afterwards because people are looking for you. All right, let's quickly get into a couple of re-engagement tactics, or one main one called email mapping. And then we'll get into some specific campaign examples. But before we get into email mapping and what that is, I just want to ask what you all are doing currently to re-engage lapsed supporters or donors or members. So I offered some examples here, just drop in some answers in the chat. I'm just curious what most of you are doing to kind of stay in front of people, re-engage people. Um, Personalized email outreach, highlighting impact stories, and those two kind of go together. There's overlap here for sure. Obviously, highlighting impact stories is something you should always be doing. You should be doing it in your emails, in your ads, on your website, all of that. Um, okay, A, B, C, D, all of those, plus direct outreach from board members. That's great. Phone calls. Yep. Um, yeah, how many of you are doing texting or SMS campaigns? I'm curious if that's a big thing for any of you looking into it. Okay. Yeah, I think that's just going to be bigger with, trying to get in front of younger people. I know that for me personally, I'm a millennial, and I know that whenever I have the option to sign up for text notifications from like airlines or my doctor or anything like that, I'm like, text me. Don't email me, because I may or may not see it right away, but texting, yeah, okay. When I start texting a few times a year, yes, Paige, we are looking to add this, absolutely. So we will keep you all posted on that, but that is absolutely on our roadmap. Um, so exciting updates to come there, but we know that this is a huge priority, so we're gonna get it in the platform. I love the idea of SMS because I get so many spam texts. I know, same, but you're not spam texting. I think I think speaking from personal experience, I think I'm able to do a pretty good job of like differentiating, between spammy texts or texts that are from an organization that I have consented to receive communications from. That's key. You're not going to be doing these types of like these audience expansion campaigns that we're talking about where you're getting in front of people who've never heard of you. You are not going to be texting them. First of all, you don't even have their phone number. You shouldn't be purchasing lists of new people that have never heard from you with personal identifying information. So we won't be texting people who don't know about us. The idea is to add SMS as an option for, when you have someone's email, when you have their phone number and their information and they've kind of opted in to hear from you, then sending them a text won't feel spammy because they know who you are. So that's kind of the idea behind effective SMS marketing. Um, Same for Gen X. Yep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know even who wants to be called on the phone anymore. It does work for baby boomers. So if that is a huge base of your donors, keep calling them for sure. But a lot of us don't want to be called randomly during the day. So yeah. Um, Paige, I believe that's true. I will get an update from product, but I do think it is actively in the works. So I'm hoping fall is going to be when it's happening, but I will get an update on that and have that for you. Yeah. But thanks for the feedback and for pushing us to develop features that I know that, are very needed and helpful. We love to hear that. Cool. So let's talk really quickly about email mapping. So you might have heard this called CRM retargeting. That's another term for it. In Feathr, we call it email mapping. This is a way of expanding your audience by serving ads to people whose email addresses you have, but they might not be opening your emails. They might be disengaged. They might not be coming to your website. So this could be people who, subscribed to your newsletter last year, but then they unsubscribed. Maybe they were dealing with inbox fatigue or whatever, but you still have their email address and you can show up with ads instead of email. So you don't email them if they unsubscribed, but you can show up with those ads and kind of try to re-engage them. Say like, hey, you want to come back? Remember, you had a relationship with us. Here's the impact we're still making in the community. So ads, I think, are a more subtle way of showing back up on people's radars if they haven't been opening your emails. An event attendee list. So again, if you had a gala, a fundraising event, a run, a 5K, anything like that, and you have a list of people's emails from participants, you can then serve ads to those people based on their email address. So it's called email mapping, which might be a little confusing. Emails are not sent as a part of this campaign type. We're simply using the email address as that unique identifier to then connect it with devices and serve ads on those devices. And so yeah, this is not, sending emails to people who have asked you not to send them emails. This is serving ads to people. That's a great question, Gina. The answer used to be yes, but now, yeah, so actually it was 2,500. This has changed. So there are no longer any minimum requirements for email, the number of emails that you have for an email mapping campaign. We recommend a higher number just because you're going to have more accuracy in the match rate, but you can upload 100 emails or select 100 emails. If it's really easy to do it in Feathr. If you have emails already, you don't have to upload lists. You can if it's like a new list of emails from an event, or if you have, a list of emails in your CRM that you've never put into Feathr, you can upload those easily and select those for an email mapping campaign. But you can also select from your contacts that you have in Feathr already to run those email mapping campaigns. It changed very recently, Paige. Yes, I feel like in the last couple of weeks, I heard about it last week for the first time. So it's definitely a recent change, but an exciting one because, again, the accuracy will be higher with the match rate if you have more emails to add to the campaign, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you want to serve ads to the 100 people or the 150 people that attended an event. You won't reach all of those people, but you will reach a good percentage of them. And yeah, that's better than having to meet some minimum requirement and then not being able to run the campaign, right? So that's definitely an exciting update that we recently made. And then just some ways to think about personalizing your email and ad campaigns to, get in front of those lapsed people or those disengaged people and bring them back into the fold in time for year-end Giving Tuesday. So, segmenting your lapsed donors, don't just treat them all as a monolith. You want to identify donors that gave once, donors who've given multiple times but haven't returned, people who've given specific amounts, so you can leverage donor data to get more personalized. So using that CRM data or the data that you have in Feathr, if you're tracking it there, to highlight past giving amounts, programs they supported, their initial engagement date. You might want to do like a milestone or achievement celebrating the anniversary of their last engagement. So, you could say like it's been 2 years since your gift helped us fund scholarships for 25 students. So again, delivering that impact statement, making it feel personal, giving them a sense of autonomy, and reminding them of the role that they have to play in your mission. So lots of ways that you can get personalized in the outreach that you're doing to people that you have information about, right? So again, those people who've never heard of you, you're kind of just trying to put that general messaging in front of them, learn more, get them to your site, and then engage further. But with people who where you have their email address, they've been to an event, they donated before, maybe they were receiving your newsletters, they have some relationship with you. You want to lean on that as much as possible, pull that data into the way that you're talking about them, just to make it feel personal and remind them that they had a stake in your cause in the past. And just some quick tips on using donor-centered language in your outreach. So again, this is going to apply more to those sort of personalized outreach that you're doing with people who either you have a relationship with, or people who've been to your website and you're starting to get a little bit more focused on the ask, right? So with thank you messages, here's an example of what you might not want to do. So organization name has provided clean water in 6 countries. This is great. This is important information. This is something you can say on your website. You might not want to use the small amount of ad copy that you have on your ads to say this. You might want to say something like, your generosity has changed lives by providing clean water, or your generosity could change lives. $5 from you each month could provide clean water to however many people. So just really thinking about ways to take what you might be saying, and a lot of you might be doing this already, which is wonderful. But if you find that you're doing more along these lines, sort of like putting an impact statement, but framing yourself as the hero or centering your organization instead of the donor, the potential donor, you want to think about how to pivot over to something like this. And so these are more like, this messaging is more for people who have given in the past and you're trying to re-engage them again with maybe these email mapping campaigns. But I think this is a good approach to take in general, in your ad copy and in your email copy as well, thinking about how to focus on the donor whenever you can say you or your instead of we or our. Even small things like that can make a big difference in the overall tone and focus, like who is the subject of the email. Okay, and quick tips on measuring success. So, ROI metrics don't tell the full story of all of these campaign types. So they might help paint a picture of what some of your retargeting campaigns are doing and how those are performing. Email campaigns do tend to perform at a high rate in terms of giving and conversion. So, a lot of giving around Giving Tuesday and end of year happens through email campaigns. People get an email from you, click through, and decide to give. But you don't want to be relying on those metrics alone for these top of funnel campaigns. You want to be thinking about um, clicks to your website, views, impressions, cost per acquisition, things like this. So just a few, this quick example from Arkansas Hospice Foundation. This is a geofencing campaign that they ran. So I wanted to highlight this report just to point out a couple of key metrics that are important for something like a geofencing campaign. So this is the ad that they were serving. They were serving a few different other ad sizes, but this is one of them. As you can see here, they targeted these 4 locations in their area with these ads. And then you can see the activity summary, spend performance here. So again, these are really like low budget campaign types. You can put $250 in, and they came in under budget here. They had a $300 budget allocated for this campaign. You can put 250, 300, $400 behind a campaign and get a lot of traction, get a lot of new clicks to your site. So they had 89 new people come through to their website and click to learn more. And so those are 89 new people who didn't know about your cause and now they do, and now they're in your audience. And you can continue to engage them further. So impressions are, how many people are actually seeing your message, click-through rates, you want to be thinking about that as well. And then, are people actually interested in the ads that you're putting out there and clicking through them? That's key because if your click-through rate is low, you want to revisit, what are we saying in the ads? What does the design look like? Is this, an appealing, visually appealing thing? Is there enough white space or is it overcrowded? And by white space, I mean just a blank space. Here, this is a good example of like, I would consider this teal color to be kind of white space, right? It's not filled with imagery or different colors. It's kind of a nice balance. Imagery, you have a clear call to action here. So lots of things you can think about when it comes to the design and layout of your ads. And that's, again, a whole other topic where there's lots to think about there. But yeah, lots of different metrics that you want to be looking at here versus just thinking about, okay, how many conversions, how many donations has this driven? And so, yeah, and then new reachable audience. So these are people who have come through that you can continue to serve ads to. All right, let's get into some real campaign examples because I'm sure that's what everyone is here for. So I have an example here from Hope and a Future. Their mission is to help foster children reach their potential and achieve their dreams. So I have a couple campaigns to call out from their 2023 donations campaign. And again, I'm going to be focusing on those audience building campaigns because that's the whole point of this webinar is to think about how are we getting in front of completely new people? What ads are we putting in front of them? How are we speaking to them? Where are we reaching them so that you can grow the audience starting now into end of year. So if there's anything you take away from today, if you're wondering, okay, what am I supposed to do? What should I start with? Start with audience expansion. So, I think typically the sort of scramble to get in front of people and make the big asks, that does happen later. You're not going to already be asking people to give for Giving Tuesday or end of year, right? That doesn't make sense. But August is not too early. September is not too early to be starting to come up with your strategy, starting to set up these campaigns where you're getting in front of new people, making them familiar with your cause. I know I keep saying this, but that is the crux of this, right? You want to be establishing new relationships with people so that when that time of year comes around, they're primed to give and re-engaging those people who might have fallen off, but they might be primed to give if you get back on their radar. And then, of course, with monthly donors and with, the people, your major donors and people who are reliably giving and on your radar, you want to stay on the radar, do whatever is already working for them. But adding in these sort of outreach points can really help you bolster up your audience and just get in front of new eyes. So this is an affinity targeting campaign that Hope in a Future ran. They were able to select from this demographic category affluent parents. So as you can see, there's a huge number of people here. Not all of these people are going to be, the right candidates for this, but they were able to get in front of more than 4 million people with these ads, just saying, hey, learn more, donate now. But learn more might be a good place to start just with in terms of general messaging, getting them through to the site for the first time. And then mobile geofencing. So they also ran these ads to learn more, and they geofenced a few different venues in their area. So a couple of churches, as you can see here, and here, and then some art center, a zoo, um, and a ballet. So I think the thinking behind this is, people who have an interest in the arts might be interested in, community-based giving, and also they might have more disposable income to give if they're engaging in like, buying tickets for events and things like that. They might have more disposable income to give to charitable causes. Again, geofencing churches is a huge one because there is a focus on charitable giving in the religious community. So getting in front of churches, if that makes sense for your organization, geofencing is an easy way to do that. And then just some results from that 2023 donation campaign. So they were able to get in front of more than 142,000 new audience members through these digital ads. They had almost 4,000 website clicks from new people. So this is a whole new group of people that didn't know about them before, been to their website now, knows about their cause, and they can continue serving the messaging. They were able to bring in 85,700 dollars in donations from this campaign. So it's not just the two that I just showed you, it's obviously the overall campaign with email and retargeting and probably some direct mail pieces in there as well. And this was for this total donation value was 142 conversions. All right, we've got the United Way of Asheville and Buncombe County. And so their mission is to mobilize the caring power of communities to advance the common good. And this was their 2023 Giving Tuesday holiday book drive. So this user ran a mobile geofencing campaign at their local mall. So I think this is just a cool example, again, of a place where people are. And this was to get people to donate books. And so I believe there was a Barnes and Noble at this mall. And so they were, trying to get in front of people who were at a mall, might be in a bookstore. And then this is just a visual of what this looks like. This is kind of the heat map where you can see. So this will just look like whatever physical location you're targeting, you'll see it on the map here. This is an example of one of the ads that they were running. And then they also did affinity targeting to people who had a history of purchasing from Barnes and Noble. So again, you can get super specific with this. Another recent update in Feathr, which Paige, I don't know if you know this one, but you can now stack affinity groups. And so this is pretty exciting because before it was like, okay, you can run ads to all people in northern Missouri and all moms with toddlers and all moms who have a history of charitable giving or something like that, right? That's a ton of sort of disparate groups. Now you can stack them. So you're running this ad campaign to moms with toddlers who live in Missouri and have a charitable giving history. So you're kind of lumping it all together instead of or, it's and or instead of kind of separately targeting each of those categories, you're treating it as one niche group and getting really, really like sort of diving deeper and honing that group so that it includes all of those characteristics. So you can really define what you want that target segment to look like and serve ads only to them. So the stacking of affinity groups is a relatively newer thing, but I think it's really useful for just, again, making the most of your budget. So you're not serving ads to a bunch of people in an affinity group that may or may not be, interested. You're serving them to people in that affinity group who are also in these other groups and just really creating that kind of specified, honed group. And then just to kind of show you, so retargeting is a little bit further down the funnel, but just kind of show you like what they do from there. So they're building up that audience with the affinity and with the geofencing, getting in front of new people, getting them interested. And then from there, they can run retargeting campaigns. So she, ran this one to the people who kind of came through those ads, clicked through and went to the site. Visited their Hands on Asheville campaign, which is I think their page, Hands on Asheville, which is their volunteer page. Anyone who visited their donate page would also see these ads. So people who visited the donate page but then left without donating, right? You serve them these ads. Sorry, I'm getting some weird Acrobat pop up here. I don't know what this is. That's annoying. My laptop's doing some weird thing. Okay, there we go. Cool. And then some results from this. So their Giving Tuesday campaign in 2023, they reached almost 3,000 new people and had 61 clicks from completely new people to their website. So they're able to then continue engaging those people, get them to come back and hopefully donate. And then the overall end of year campaign, so these campaigns I just showed you, plus all of the other efforts that they ran, so retargeting, email, all of these things, they were able to reach a total of 50,000 new people, get 376 new clicks to their website, clicks through their ads, all of that, and they raised $2,500 in donations. They raised 470 the previous year. So it really varies from organization to organization. These might not look like, outsized numbers, but for this organization, this was a big deal. And they, came in, they made more money off of the campaigns than they put in. So I think coming in under or at budget and then bringing in some new donations, getting new clicks to your site. And again, not all of these new people that they brought in through these campaigns contributed to this donation amount, right? But they're new people that now know about this organization, now know about events that they host, campaigns they're running, opportunities to help out and get involved. And so the value here is not just in the numeric results, but also just overall visibility. Are you out there? Are people learning about your cause, coming to your website? Is your online audience growing? That's the goal. Um, I'm just looking here. Any stats on net donations after campaigns? Are you asking about like the overall, sorry, one sec. Just trying. Okay, Paige, I'm not sure why that's happening. I will get back to you on that. I was told that the update was released, but I will absolutely ask my product team about that after this webinar and get back to you because that should not be the case. It says you need 2,051. That's also seems like a okay, okay. Adding them. Okay, this is weird. I will get back to you on that. Okay, got it. Shannon, let me know what you are looking for. Because this number here is the total number of donations that they got from these specific campaigns that I just showed. And so this number can vary, but I have some more examples to show with other donation amounts. Okay, I see what you mean. I don't have that information here. Obviously, like platform costs and things like that go into this, but we're looking mostly at return on ad spend here. That's what we're tracking. So, the amount of money that you put into your media spend to serve the ads versus what's coming in donation. So there's some more math to do on the back end of this. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful. Okay, so this is Quad City Symphony Orchestra. Their mission is to inspire, entertain, and engage the Quad City community through superb symphonic music, music education, and cultural leadership. So attendee acquisition for their 2023 Nightmare Before Christmas in concert. That's what we're going to be looking at today. So this is an example for an arts and culture organization. This is not a donation-based campaign, but just to kind of give you some examples of how arts and culture organizations, if you're a museum, a zoo, orchestra, things like that, you can also think about getting in front of new people in these same ways. So keyword search campaign, they uploaded about 100 relevant keywords to target, and then they served ads, those display ads that we saw earlier, to people who were within the geographical limit. So again, with something like shows or performances, you're going to want to really limit your audience to people who are within driving distance or reasonable distance. And so you can put geo filters on top of any of the campaigns that we're talking about to make sure you're really focusing your budget on the right physical locations based on where your audience is. But they were able to target people in their local area who had searched for relevant terms or seemed interested in coming to local performances. And then they also did an affinity targeting campaign, targeting people who had an affinity for horror movies, for musicals, for Broadway musical theater, were in market for music, entertainment, arts, things like that. So this helped them get in front of lots of new prospective attendees as well in their community. And then for that overall campaign promoting the Nightmare Before Christmas and concert show, they had 6,487 new audience members that they brought in through these awareness campaigns that now know about the symphony orchestra and the shows that they offer. They had 4,120 new clicks to their website. And then they brought in $22,436 from ticket sales to this event. So super successful event here. Guiding Light is another organization that we work with. They help men and women achieve lifelong recovery from addiction and find a new way of being in relationship with the world. They ran an awareness and fundraising campaign last fall. So I want to look at some of the ads from that. They ran an affinity targeting campaign targeting affluent seniors. So again, they were able to get in front of people who are within this income bracket, so 100,000 to $1 million annually, and then gender and age combined, females 65 or older. So you can see that they're getting pretty specific here. They seem to really know their audience and know who they're trying to reach. So it's just a matter of selecting those people, coming up with ads that are going to resonate, and then serving those ads to the right people. Mobile geofencing, they did this as well. And so they targeted specific areas in their community with these ads here. And then they also did an email mapping campaign. So they imported a list of email addresses that they had in Virtuous, which is their CRM, and they were able to serve these ads on the devices of those people. So again, no emails are sent. You're just using those emails as the unique identifiers to then serve ads. So these are some more of those ads. I think they have really nice looking ads that definitely stand out and are impactful. So great example of some good creatives here. Some results from this campaign. So they brought in 48,800 new audience members, 1,000 new clicks to website, and they brought in over $3,000 in donations from this campaign. And then last but not least, we have Christian Relief Fund. So they provide holistic care for people living in poverty around the world. They ran their end of year fundraising and child sponsorships campaign in Feathr last year, and they had amazing results. They did some historical geofencing of churches like we've talked about. So you can see the Hills Church, they targeted this one with these ads here. So getting these ads in front of people who had been at the church. So key here is historical geofencing. They pick churches in the area that they think would have prospective donors, and then they geofence them. They use historical geofencing to put ads in front of those people after they left the church, once they're back home, so that they would be more likely to be on their devices scrolling and actually see the ads. And then they also ran some affinity targeting to potential donors. So people who had an affinity for giving to religious causes or an affinity to being part of religious causes. And then affluent empty nesters, which I love the name of that. It's so specific, and definitely probably a demographic that a lot of you want to be getting in front of. So this is an example of an affinity group that is available that you can put ads in front of immediately. So and some results from this campaign. So this was a super successful campaign. I just showed a couple of, the efforts that they ran, but they were able to drive $142,500 in donations, child sponsorship funds, all of that. So this was a much larger campaign that they run every year, but they, getting in front of those new people and putting their message and putting their mission in front of new people who've never heard of them, that's a huge piece of the puzzle. And I think CRF is a really good example. They saw outstanding results this past year. They've been with Feathr for 3 years. They've seen a return on investment each year, but that has grown substantially. So the first year they used us, I think, was 2022. They did see tens of thousands of dollars come in donations for their end of year campaign, but it was nothing like this. So they are just a great example of an organization that understands that you have to put in the work and build your audience and also just build the data that you have in your marketing platform. So you have the audience in there, but you want to continue to pull in the data, get more segmented in your outreach, continue bringing in new people, serving people the right ads. And yeah, having a platform that lets you do all of that just makes it a lot easier. And so, yeah, I think they do a really good job of trusting the process. Slow and steady wins the race, and they clearly have seen really outsized results from being patient and putting in that sustained effort. Okay, that wraps things up. I do want to launch a quick poll because I know people are probably going to start to hop off. If you're interested in learning anything else about Feathr, let me end this first one here. If you'd like to hear more about how we can help you do some of what we showed today, if you are looking to kind of start building a good foundation for your end of year campaigns and you want to see how we can help you set up some of these geofencing, affinity, email mapping campaigns to help you get in front of new people, get in front of lapsed people, that's a huge piece of the puzzle for a successful end of year. So we are happy to meet with you, chat through your specific organization's needs, and kind of walk you through what this could look like for you. So um, glad to see we have some Feathr users on here today as well. Yes, Julie, I will be sending out the video recording and the deck. So you can expect to see those in your inbox either this afternoon or tomorrow. I might not get to it today because things are a little crazy over here, but you will definitely get those in your email inbox. But yeah, I'll leave this running just for a couple of seconds so that people can continue dropping answers in. But really glad to see Feathr users on here. I love to have customers on here. I do hope that these webinars are helpful for you as well, because obviously, you're using the platform, you're familiar with a lot of these campaign types, but I think seeing what your peers are doing and seeing what other orgs are doing can give you new ideas for campaigns that you have access to already. And then, for those of you who aren't using Feathr, whether you're interested in Feathr or if you're interested in doing this in the platform you're already using, I'm here to just kind of help inspire you, support you, give you ideas on what should be possible in the platform you're using and how you should be thinking about these initiatives. So really excited to have you all on here today. I'm glad it was helpful. And I will be doing a lot more webinars on, leading up to Giving Tuesday and end of year. I want to be talking more about these topics. So again, my email is in the deck. Shoot me over any topics that you think would be helpful. I really am all ears for that because I can come up with whatever I think is helpful. But if you guys have a really specific thing you'd like me to cover, I'd love to do that. And it'll be, I think more applicable to everyone if it's coming from you all. So definitely send me any feedback or ideas. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.